911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call med control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. All right, welcome back to Dispatch Dysfunctional. Real calls, real people, real conversations about the weight we carry. We talk a lot about burnout in EMS, long shifts, bad calls, no sleep. But burnout doesn't always look like someone breaking down on the shift. Sometimes it looks like going home and realize you've got nothing left. You're there, but you're not really there. Your family's talking to you, and you're still thinking about the call or the next shift, or honestly, nothing at all. We've all been there. We all have done that. And the worst part, sometimes you don't even get to notice it's happening. Other people do, your family, your loved ones, your friends. And if you think this is just an EMS or first responder problem, you're wrong. Today's conversation is a little bit different. She's not an EMS, but she has lived it, and now she's helping people coach through it and live through it. And what she's been through, it's going to sound extremely familiar. It's going to cause a lot of us to understand exactly what she's been through. So instead of me trying to explain it, I'm going to let her do that. So go ahead and tell the people who you are and what made you say, yeah, I need to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Chris. My name is Nicole Johnson. My burnout story started, gosh, I was in corporate for nearly 30 years. Yeah, and the last 15 years I've been leading and scaling and building teams from the ground up at places like Target, Best Buy, and Amazon. I'm also a full-time single mom, and my son is medically complex. He was born with a congenital heart defect, and he needed 3 surgeries before the age of 3, as well as a pacemaker.
Oh, wow.
So at the time I had him, I was building a new team at Target, and navigating care and lots of doctor's appointments, as well as having to make sure that I got to work and was continuing to kind of climb that corporate ladder because that's what I was told I needed to do. Though in hindsight, I probably would have done things a little differently. I don't think my burnout story started though immediately. I am a high achiever. I'm a high performer. I can handle a lot, and I've proven that. I think when I realized it first was only just a few years ago. I think we talk about burnout in a couple different ways, right? Like we might say we're burned out just because we've been working too much, right? And we need more sleep. And a night of sleep or a little bit of time off might help to replenish. The type of burnout that and I've certainly felt that at periods of time, like up and down throughout my 30 years, right?
Right, we
Because,
all do.
I'm a high, I think anyone who's a high achiever, you go through waves of like working really, really hard, and you need to take some time off. But the kind of burnout that I'm talking about and that I'm researching and focusing on really is that what you were describing as like a full on depletion. It's a depletion of your mind, body, and soul. You're not showing up for the things that matter. You might be experiencing uh, a level of fatigue that when you lay down at night, you can't go back to sleep. You can't even go to sleep because your brain starts turning on and you start thinking about all the things that you need to be doing, and you're not kind to the people that matter. And so when that started for me, gosh, it was like 2017. I remember I was training for and running a marathon and ran a marathon while I was getting my son ready for his third heart surgery, and I was building a brand new team at Target all at the same time. And yes, it was stressful and it was hard, but I had the mechanisms in place and I had the support to get it done. And less than a year later, in 2018, my son had gone through his surgery, and it was a difficult recovery. But it was like I all of a sudden hit a brick wall and I couldn't function. And the things that were used to work for me stopped working for me. And I would come home and have no energy to be present for him. My brain was at work. I was thinking about all the things that I should be doing. I couldn't show up well. And I tried a number of different things. I tried switching jobs a couple times. I tried new workout routines. I tried talking to different doctors. And it's really not until the last year that I was able to find the support that I needed and unravel what was going on. And that was when I hit a point a year and a half ago that I woke up with shingles on my face. I was worried about losing my eyesight, and ended up having to take a medical leave for 4 months, and started to do the real work around how I was attaching my identity to work, how I wasn't giving myself the time to focus on truly what mattered, and how I could, really leverage energy and lean into the things that supported me so that I could show up for my son and my community and the things that truly mattered. And in doing that, I have learned, I was certified as a coach, so I've learned mechanisms to help support others in navigating burnout. And so that's kind of what I've focused on. So I left Amazon most recently in July, and now I am full time working as a coach in an executive capacity. But most of my clients are really looking at recovering from burnout.
I got you. And as you described that earlier, a lot of us in EMS, we've been through that. We still go through that. We're good providers, we're good people. We all just go home and we're just not the same. I've
Mm-hmm.
actually heard that from my wife, and I've noticed it in a few of my old partners that made me worry and kind of see it myself. But as you said, it's kind of hard, or as you give it in your window too. In the end, it's hard to see it in ourselves more than it is to see
Mm-hmm.
in others, and especially if you're a high performer or first responder, you don't know how to put yourself first. And maybe you can attest to this better than I can, but I do believe that's another mechanism that builds on to the burnout is we don't know how to perceive ourselves properly and give back to ourselves as we need to. We put everyone else in front of ourselves.
Yeah, I see that with in myself, and I think that's really a common thread for all high achievers. It's interesting because in the corporate setting, we often say we're not saving lives, but in the setting of first responders, that's not true, right? So I can't necessarily speak to that. I think there's a lot of we're saying we're not saving lives as a mechanism for, oh, this isn't really that urgent. But the reality is that common thread of putting ourselves last or deprioritizing the things that we actually need to sustain us are critical so that we can show up for everyone else. And so I don't know where as a society we learn to deprioritize ourselves or seeing that as selfish. I do know that the term self-care gets thrown a lot around a lot in a way that kind of almost has a negative connotation now. Like, I think when you say self-care, we often see like spa days and like, perceived selfish activities. So maybe we talk about like, planning our capacity, right? Or maybe we need to name it something else so that we actually see the value in prioritizing it. Because if you're not getting the rest, like the real rest and recovery that you need, how are you going to show up for the people that you are caring for, right? Whether that's in your field, that's actually your job, but it's also your family, right? So maybe you are doing your best work during the day, but you need to show up for your family and your partners and your kids, or your friends as well. And in order to do that, you've got to be caring for yourself. And that isn't spa days necessarily. Sometimes that's just simple moments of reflection through the day. Like, this thing that I just navigated was really hard, and this is how it felt. Like, actually naming what you're going through, taking a few seconds to name that, transitioning from one thing to the next. I think we often go really quickly from work to home without even saying, this is what I just experienced at work, and this is how it felt. And I had no control over this thing. And maybe you need to say it out loud so that you can transition and not bring all of that weight into your home, right? And so I think there's very simple, short mechanisms that you can use to transition, to reflect on your day, to remove kind of the weight or anything that's weighing on you, that don't take like a bunch of, it's not a massage or something that you have to take an hour out, but they're simple mindset shifts that you can bring in to support you so that you can offload some of that stress is not necessarily bad, right? Until it becomes chronic. Like, our bodies are so resilient, but our stress needs to have a way to be released. And so maybe that's going for a short walk. Maybe that's a breathing exercise. Maybe that's just talking out loud or talking into a voice recorder about what you just experienced and felt so that you can get it out of your brain, and off of your plate so that you can have that moment of release.
And the thing is as you pretty much said, is when we don't properly take care of our own mental health or our own needs that way, that's what causes a bunch of side effects, I would say, or
Mm-hmm.
The suicidal ideations, and that is one reason that first response has such a high mortality rate, is due to the suicides and people not taking care of their burnout. And like you said, it's not always a spa day. It's go read a book that you want to read. Go
Mm-hmm.
color a coloring page, for God's sakes. Do what you have to do to be able to get your mind back to where it needs to be. Me, myself, this is what I do, is this podcast. And it's been a tremendous help in talking to therapists and psychiatrists and all that. Find a team that will support you. Find a support system for whoever's listening.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out to me, reach out to anybody you've heard on this podcast. They've all told you how to reach out to them. I'm sorry I had to go off on that rant, but
No, I that's all valid and true. And I think your body, like our mind and our bodies are connected too, right? If you're not releasing that stress, not only, you talked about suicidal ideation, I had shingles, right? Like, your
Right.
body's going to manifest, it's going to try to get rid of that stress in some way. So you're either mentally not going to be able to show up for others, or your body is going to force you to like reconcile that you haven't found mechanisms to release that stress if you don't find proactive ways to do it. And again, it does not have to be this crazy thing. Like, I love to read and I love to journal. That's not everyone's cup of tea, but there are very brief things that you can do to get rid of that stress. And it shouldn't be a non-negotiable, or it shouldn't be a negotiable. It should be non-negotiable, right?
Like you said, I had a stroke due to mine for building up, but that that's another reason I found out. Stress doesn't play nicely with your body.
No, it doesn't. I think you hear people say it's just stress, but stress is when it's not treated and it's chronic, it is I mean, it can be deathly,
Right.
and fatal.
And that's one thing that I think needs to be talked about more, because we really don't talk about it a lot. We all,
Mm-hmm.
in my line of work, when I first got into it, I was always told, suck it up, don't talk about it, leave it alone. And we always, now I guess we don't realize the job's what's killing us, and we take it home with us, and we turn into somebody else due to the burnout or due to the stress in the end.
There's something else that I've been saying a couple different things almost daily lately. One is with awareness comes agency. So if you can actually give yourself some time to understand where your stress is coming from, what you can control versus what you can't control, right? The outcomes of what happens when at your job often is something that you can't fully control. What you're being asked to do, sometimes you can't fully control that. Uh, so with awareness comes agency. So where is your energy going? And if you are, if if you are watching TV, not that that's inherently bad, but watching TV or doom scrolling, that's not going to give you an energy release, right? So can you map out what your day looks like so that you can be more intentional about the areas that you can control? Something else I say is you can't self-care your way out of a broken system, right? And I think that in the corporate environment, and I know in healthcare, just navigating healthcare with my son, there are a lot of things that we are asked to do that don't necessarily align with feeling like we're doing meaningful work. Now, saving lives is meaningful, right? But are there ways or administrative type tasks or things that you're being asked to do that don't feel like they're actually supporting a greater cause? I think by compartmentalizing some of those things and saying, I don't have control over that, and naming it, that can be helpful too. So, what do you actually have control over, and how do you want to manage your capacity around those things? Can be really helpful. But that means you need to sit down and kind of understand what you're navigating. I think some people go blindly kind of through their days and do what they need to do without actually sitting down and saying, how am I spending my time? Where am I getting depleted? And what are the things that actually give me energy so that I can show up better for the things that matter?
True, and not just caffeine. People don't think she's talking about caffeine.
No. No, I mean, like, and this goes down to like,
Rich.
right. I mean, I love my coffee in the morning, but we need to be taking care of ourselves too, right? And movement and nutrition, that is going, like, if that's one, that's not self-care. That's just holistically, you need to make sure that your body is able to show up for the things that matter. And so, and that doesn't, I think the influence culture has made that seem harder than it should be. And it almost feels like it's a non-starter for some people. But what are ways that you can get movement? I have clients that have started just dancing in between work and home so that they can like that's their release, right? To show up at home so that they've left work behind. And that's movement. So what does that need to look like so that you're actually taking care of your whole body to show up?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense as well. You got to put thought into it. You have to put effort
Mm-hmm.
into it. Just because you're going through burnout, don't mean you're a bad person. You know, there, and I hate how people say that sometimes, but it's true. You just because you're going through a bad time doesn't mean you're a bad person.
No,
And
it's not a personal
right,
failure.
right, exactly,
No.
exactly. And it's. I know for myself, I felt when I was going through burnout really bad. I felt like I wasn't taking care of my family, but it was quite the opposite in the end. Is the wife thought she wouldn't take care of me because she knew I
Mm.
was going through whatever I was going through, and she tried to help me, and I wouldn't let her because that's just how a lot of us are. And so from your perspective of being a coach, how would you explain what's actually happening to people when they're going through all this?
So my coaching approach really leverages the other person, my client's language, right? So I come from a place of consensus reality. So everything that you tell me is true. And I believe that you have the tools to navigate your way out of it. You just need someone to ask you the right questions so that you can kind of figure that out, right? So that's how I support. Um, so I think hearing someone explain how they're navigating their day and what their symptoms are, that will give me the right prompts to ask you when was the last time you felt like yourself? Because oftentimes when people are burnt out, the first thing they'll say is, I don't feel like myself. Well, when was the last time you felt like yourself? What did your days look like then? What were you doing? How were you spending your time? What was bringing you joy? And then now if you come back to today, what are the things that are stopping you from showing up in that way? What is your brain telling you about who you are right now? How do you want to feel, and what are you willing to let go of so that you can make the changes to get back to that person? So I think it's a journey, right? And it's so individual. And the common threads are that sense of depletion, mind, body, and soul depletion. But how someone arrived at this place is unique. What someone's constraints are unique, right? Someone might be single and not have a family. Someone else might have a large family that they're caring for. So their constraints are different.
Right.
And so honoring those constraints and helping them see things that they can start to release so that they can kind of come back to what matters to them. And honoring the things that have come in that are things that they have to continue holding, right? So I do think that as high achievers, we're frequently holding things that maybe aren't ours to hold. Are we continuing to carry things that maybe we could bring our support team or our family in to help us with? I don't know, at some point, society or our culture told us that we need to be completely self-sufficient instead of asking for help and leaning on our community. Like we forgot how to be in community. Maybe it was the pandemic, but I think it was happening even before that.
I think you're right.
That we forgot how to connect with others. We weren't meant to do everything alone. We were meant to do this, with our community support. So how do we get back to that place? And again, that's going to look different for everyone.
Very true, and that actually brings me to my next point. Is we don't normally talk about it. We always try to shove it down. We in the first response field have a very dark sense of humors about it, and we joke about a lot of things that a lot of people find offensive. And a lot of us just say, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm all right. And a lot of times, to me, when people say that, it's almost like a script that they've written in their head to make
Mm-hmm.
things go away. And in your intake form, you said something that hit me pretty good: is that stuffing things down always comes out somewhere.
Yep.
What does that look like as well, and how would someone better prevent that from happening?
I think this goes back to what we were talking about as like your stress needs to have a place to be released, right? So if you're just stuffing it and you're like, I'm not going to talk about this, for me, that came out in my face being covered in shingles. It sounds like you've had your own, health scares as well. And so it's going to come out, and you're going to have no control over it. So honestly, if you like lean into the fact that high achievers tend to be people that like to have control over their outcomes, then by stuffing, you're actually going against the grain for yourself, right? By stuffing, you're not giving yourself the ability to control how your stress comes out. By doing minor micro recovery, like small micro recoveries throughout the day, whether that be journaling or talking into a voice recorder or talking to a friend or a therapist or a coach or someone that can support you, you are then giving up your control over how that's going to come out, right?
Right. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, and the more you control it, the better the outcome. You know,
That's right.
I'm sure you've seen in your field of being a coach is you've seen it numerous times. Is someone may come to you with really bad burnout, and then 3 to 6 months down the road, they're not better, but they're doing better. You know,
It's a journey,
it
right?
is.
Because
It takes a
you
while.
got there for a reason. It probably was years that truly got you there.
Right.
And so it might take years to fully, and I don't mean to like, I don't want that to sound like ominous, right? But
Right. No,
like it can be, and because really what you want to do is change your relationship with work in your day. Understand that you need to create some flexibility in your day because there's going to be days that are bad,
yep.
and that's just that's life, right? There's going to be days that are bad, but how do you want to prepare yourself for how you will show up on those bad days and not continue to carry that? Can you create those routines and those recovery strategies so that you can release those bad days so that you can continue to show up after that and you can recover from that, right? And that means that you're kind of pulling in a new system for yourself. And building a new system is not easy, right? It requires shifting your mindset. It requires finding new community, finding support within, your friends, family, and coworkers, and that takes time.
Very true. And a lot of times, we don't, as you said, we have to depend on our family, friends, and coworkers. And a lot of times we don't explode at work. It's either we explode at home or we just completely shut down.
That's right.
There's no opposites. It's one of the two. You're gonna explode or shut down. Those are your two options, really. And
Yeah, and I always think about like they talk about work-life balance, which I think is bullshit, right? I don't think that there is
I
a
agree.
thing as work-life balance. I think it's like work-life harmony. Like you're only a single person. Like how do you pull in, like how do you just like let go of all the things that are you're navigating at home when you're at work and vice versa? Like you're one person now, that's your life. So figuring out a system that's going to allow you to show up throughout the day is what you need to do, right? And sometimes that means like you're at home, you've had a bad day at work. How do you let your family know that this is kind of what happened if you can tell them? Or like, and so I'm not maybe going to be my best, but can you let them know that this is how I'm trying to let go of this, right? Can you bring them into that so that they're aware? uh, there are mechanisms to kind of create some harmony, but like I just don't think that there's ever balance fully, right? If
right,
the
like you
more
said,
you're giving at home, the less it's you're able to give at work, and vice versa. Like I don't know how you create some sort of perfect utopian balance.
as you said, it's bullshit, and it's funny that you said that because I said the same thing since I've heard it since day one. Oh, it's a perfect. We have a perfect work life balance. How? I'm one person.
I often think that it's like it's I don't know where the term came from, but I often think it's like the workplace's way of telling you to leave your home life at home and not bring it
Right.
into work, which is like so like you don't want me to be human then is what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's another thing that gets to me is, oh, we're a family. Bullshit.
At work, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
no, bullshit. Yeah, like you said.
Yes. No, because you're yeah, and especially in the corporate setting, they make us feel expendable. So like your family shouldn't be making you feel expendable.
Right. And and another thing that you said on your form too is burnout isn't just an individual problem.
Mm-mm.
So what is it exactly?
I think based on my experience and working with my clients, it really feels like a systems problem, like a workplace problem.
Right.
Um, I'm seeing chronic urgency again. Like, I don't know if this tracks for your field, but I see chronic urgency even when things aren't that important.
Yep.
So it's then hard for us to discern what's important, what isn't. And so then we default to everything being important all the time. And so then And then with technology, we're like always on. We think that we have to answer every message, every text message immediately. And so we never have the opportunity to decompress because we're feeling like we always have to be ready for the next thing. That is one way that contributes. I think not feeling like we're in control of the decisions that are being made, but yet we're being asked to solve or create solutions for decisions without, having any input into the why behind it. That starts to create, to remove agency and autonomy from how you solve problems if you don't know why you're even solving a problem. So I think a lot of it is feeling kind of like we're just meant to be robotic, right? And not having the ability to show up as a human, ask for what we need for our unique circumstances. I was talking to someone yesterday about, she was sharing that her parents, when she was growing up, they both worked, which I don't know if that was maybe the 70s. And they both were able to come home, leave work at work, and show up, for their families and be present. And at some point, and I think it is probably the introduction of technology and that always on, like we can't we're not unplugging anymore. Right. We're in like two places at once all the time.
Yeah, very true. And like you said a minute ago, it's almost like in our world, we're expected to go from strict chaos to back to normal, back to, hey, we have an IFT for you, which is interfacility transport. It's not an emergency, but we need you on this right now. And then go back to like nothing ever happened. That's not how our brains are wired to work. We're meant to, you either have an emergency or you don't. It's not let's merge the two.
And make everything feel important, and then you don't ever get to take a moment to decompress. Yeah,
exactly, like you just said.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy.
And I like something else you said in your thing is, we're not all broken. We all do something right. We all do a lot of things right. So, the team mentality that we show up for one each other mindset is a great idea. We do need to start showing up for more than ourselves. We need to show up for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that help out, and where does it fall short as well?
Showing up for, or helping
the show up for each other. You show up for each other.
Showing up. I think this can be really tricky, because not everyone has the emotional capacity to support you in the way you might need in that moment, right? So if you are going to a friend or your spouse or partner or a family member, and maybe you're saying, maybe you ask them first, like, I had a really bad day at work. Some really hard shit happened, and I would really like someone to talk to. Do you have the mental capacity to like listen to me right now? So just asking someone, I think there's this new phrase going around called trauma dumping. Like if someone doesn't have the emotional capacity to listen to you, maybe they had a bad day too.
Right.
Right. So maybe it's, I'll listen to you and support you. Can you also reciprocate? That might be an answer. Or maybe that person just doesn't have the capacity, and you need to find someone else to support you. And this is why I do think like therapy, coaching, some sort of mechanism where you've got someone that's not maybe as personally invested, that can be very helpful. Right. But I do think when it is someone someone that's close to you personally, it is so huge to ask them first if they have the emotional capacity to support you in this moment before you kind of dump whatever happened, right? And then now you're creating kind of a new muscle for how you engage with each other, because you're not always going to be able to support them when they need it, and it should feel safe to let them know if you aren't in that headspace, because to truly show up for someone, not everyone wants to be fixed. right? Like I think we have a
Sure.
default to automatically try to fix someone. Like if you tell me this bad day that you had, let me tell you all the ways that you can make yourself feel better. But sometimes all you want is to just be heard. You just need to kind of release what happened in this day. Maybe you need to cry, punch a pillow or something, but you just need someone to like be there and listen to it so that you can let it kind of release it and let it go. You don't need them to fix you. There's nothing to fix because you're not broken. And so that's another thing that I think in personal relationships, we need to get better at asking someone, okay, I'll listen to you, but what support do you need? Do you want me just to listen to you? Do you want me to help you figure out a way forward, or how to fix something, or how do you want me to show up for you in this moment?
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Good.
And so I'm trying to figure out, if you could change all this in all the jobs across all the high stress jobs, one thing out of all of them, what would it be?
Oh, that's tough. I think my brain went immediately to curiosity. Like, how are we showing up with curiosity in every situation, whether we are um, working with someone else, we are helping someone else? How do we, rather than coming from a place of judgment, how can we start from a place of curiosity? And then by actually listening to others, how can we show up better for the people around us? Even when we're angry, can we start from a place of curiosity? Because you don't know what someone else is navigating in that moment. And I think this is hardest for me on the road. Like I just think everyone's a bad driver and I'm the best driver. And so but I could be like, that person's not paying attention because they had a really bad day. Um, that's a very minor example, but could we just start from a place of curiosity in all of our interactions rather than judgment? And I honestly think that this could fix a lot of things about work, about personal relationships. Yeah.
Oh yeah, especially like you said, to get less judgment and more actual, support behind it. The more of the curiosity, because the more curiosity you have with someone, the better the rapport is going to be, the better the friendships
Mm-hmm.
become, the better support systems you build, and it's just that whole snowball effect in the end of you never know the one question you may ask somebody that's going to make their day into something that's going to be a tremendous day or a horrible day.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's something that I think a lot of us need to realize is not everyone is out to get us. There's people out there that are willing to help, and the more people we reach out to, the better.
That's right.
It's I can't think of that movie back in the day, but Pay It Forward. That movie
Yes.
that kind of goes back along with all this whole thing here is the small acts of just asking someone, "How's your day? Is there anything I could help with?" or something like that. It starts that snowball effect to where it can affect so many others.
Totally. It is like that butterfly effect, right? Just
Right.
smiling at someone or asking them and actually listening to them. Because how often do we ask people how they're doing and we just expect them to say fine or good and then move on from the conversation? Like, if you're actually asking someone how they're doing, can you be present to listen to the truth? Like, do you have the capacity to do it? Otherwise, don't ask the question.
Right.
Like.
It's almost like we were trained to, "Hey, how you doing today? Okay, good. Have a good one." That's literally it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've caught
Hmm.
myself personally myself doing the same thing, and it's like, "Oh, wait, hold on. You just said something that I didn't expect you to say. Let's dig deeper into this." You know,
Yes, let me be here for you.
right?
Yeah.
And it's it's tremendous on how much you can make a difference in other people's lives just to help for just a
Just a
small
small
amount.
act of kindness. Yep. Exactly.
you said something on another thing on your intake form that stuck with me. On there it's ask about the 2 a.m. Someone listening is either overthinking or overworking. So if they're sitting there right now, alone, exhausted, trying to hold it together, what do you want them to hear right now?
You're not going to solve anything at 2 a.m. Um, I mean, I don't think you are. Some probably are solving problems at 2 a.m. You don't need to prove your worth. You are inherently worthy because you exist. Think about the things that you uniquely bring to the world, and know that you are able to, by taking care of yourself, you're able to show up for others in a deeper, more meaningful way. So go back to sleep because you need your sleep.
Yeah, that's true too. I appreciate you coming on today. I really do. Uh, this isn't just about EMS. It's not just about first response. It's about everybody. Um, if we don't start paying attention to it, we're going to keep losing good people. Not just to death, but to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So, for anyone listening right now, how would they learn more about you or be able to reach out to you if they wanted information about you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Chris, for having me on. This is such a good conversation. So my website is dropmoreholdless.com. You can, if you're not even sure, you're feeling depleted and you're not even sure where to start, I offer a handful of free energy audits every month. And that's a good place for me just to listen to what you're navigating. And then I can give you some micro recovery strategies that you can weave into your day that doesn't feel like you're adding a whole bunch of things to your to-do list. And it's based entirely on your truth and your realities. And then I get to know new people, and you can, take some value away from that session. I also write a lot on Substack, so Drop More, Hold Less on Substack as well. So I talk a lot about burnout and my own experiences.
Sorry, I was going to your website as you were speaking.
Great.
I was going to add that in the links for
Perfect.
Put it on Facebook and all that. I was going to add your links in there as well. Let me go ahead and hit stop real quick. If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.